Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game, the podcast where I, your host Connor McCabe, bring on a guest to hear from them about a meaningful or memorable video game from a particular moment in their life. This is a podcast about what makes video games special to different people. And a little bit of housekeeping before I introduce my guest is that anything that myself or my guest plug today, you can find in a link in the gorgeous show notes. So whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast catcher, scroll down, and then the episode notes, you'll find a link to a blog possibly, or another podcast, or even a Patreon where you can find bonus video game podcasts from me and the makers of this show. But again, that's just in the show notes wherever you're listening. And I'll introduce my guest for today's episode. Please welcome author of The Thrilling Tales of Old Video Games and host of the gayest episode ever, it's Drew Mackie.
Hello, Connor. Thank you for having me back.
You're welcome. Joining just an esteemed list of people as I've been doing over the last year and a half, having people return. And I'm really excited to talk to you about what we're going to get into for the main event later. But before we're going to talk about you and, some of the things you do. And I'm going to go over your brief history on the show. But how have you been? What do you want the listener to know about you right now?
I really like old video games, and it's not always at the expense of new video games, but my brain is so focused on old stuff, and there's so much old stuff out there that very often when people are talking about, my roommate's playing Cyberpunk, and I only know about it through what he tells me about it, and I'm like, oh, this sounds really interesting. I'm never going to get to that because I need to play this RPG that came out for Sega CD in 1997, and I'm not finished with that yet. I think that sums me up pretty well.
I understand that too. I sometimes think if I wasn't concerned with being up to date and being able to, sort of be in the zeitgeist and discuss things that are coming out now, I could just swim in the history of games and just only play old stuff forever. So that makes a lot of sense.
When we were kids, most of us only had the one system that our parents would let us have. So there was always the other systems that you're well, I know my friend has that and all these games that I want to play, but now we can play all of them. And yes. I realize that's not what adulthood is supposed to be, but that's kind of what I want it to be.
Oh yeah. I very vividly in the year 2020 where we were all stuck inside and I finally decided, wait a second, I never had a PlayStation. What if I bought a PlayStation 1? And then Drew, I also bought 7 games and I was playing them. So there's such an appeal, especially that specific sort of phenomenon of playing something at a friend's house and dreaming about it.
Yeah.
Have you picked up any old consoles like that you didn't have as a kid?
I had a MAME system that I got at. Have you ever been to that place in Glendale? It's on the way to Home Depot where they do custom video game builds.
Oh, I don't think so.
So I can't. It's Custom Video Game Superstore or something like that.
Okay.
So if you're driving towards that Home Depot that's on San Fernando.
Yes.
It's on San Fernando, and sometimes the warehouse door is open, so you drive by and you'll just see a bunch of old arcade cabinets.
Oh my!
So they restore them. They build new ones for dedicated machines. They'll have a new build that looks like a retro Donkey Kong, or they do custom ones where they have the MAME emulator that has all of the arcade ROMs on it. So I got that, and that was my thing. But I also got it the day before the 2016 election.
Okay.
And so that I had this weird association with it. Was oh, did my greediness with video games cause Trump to win? Oh no,
yes.
I feel guilty about it. I still played it. I loved it, but at some point I abandoned that. But that was my thing because I love arcades, and I always dreamed of having my own arcade machine. And the one in Glendale, it's surprisingly affordable. It's not that expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
How have I missed this thing? I have to maybe not rush to wherever I'm going next time and stop by, but that's incredible.
Yeah, you have to be stuck in traffic when the warehouse doors open and you see hundreds of arcade machines. And I'm without even thinking about it, my car was just pulling over. I was well, I want to go in here and just see what this is. And then they sold me a machine.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we're already starting to dip in the video game talk. It's great. But that also has to do with, at least one of your ventures, in life for you, which is the Thrilling Tales of Old Video Games. You're also a host of a podcast. Drew, do you want to talk about either of those things and promote them while we're here?
Sure. I guess foremost, Thrilling Tales of Old Video Games is going to be of more interest to your audience because most people that listen to this podcast like video games and probably like old ones. And my whole thing, I've been doing this for several years, and it took me until fairly recent to realize that I'm doing writing that connects video games with like the larger cultural world.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times video games get like ghettoized as being like this like thing that's over here in terms of culture. But they're not. Like they're working in reference to like music and movies and TV and comic books. All these things show up in video games because video games are the products of the cultures that create them. So my whole thing is like, okay, I want to go back and be like, where did this thing come from, and try to unpack like why this weird thing showed up in a video game. And this would result in like I can't think of an example off the top of my head.
You're trying to think of one of your like articles you've written?
So there was one on Cammy in Street Fighter.
Yes.
Who's the girl with the braids. And all the different pop culture influences that led up to Cammy, including how she's sort of Sarah Connor from Terminator, which is not obvious, but she is. And it is this really weird thing where, like, when you look at when Super Street Fighter 2 came out and they added Cammy to Street Fighter, you'd be like, okay, well, like, she's this, this, and this, and these elements got synthesized from, like, La Femme Nikita, and these ones came from Sarah Connor in Terminator, and they resulted in this character that's, like, this unique thing, who also shows up in other video games, and, like, just trying to put things in a larger cultural context. But it's also, honestly, trying not to be boring about it, and trying just to like make sense of all these things we got bombarded with when we were kids, and we didn't really, I don't know, we didn't really pick them apart. We're just like, oh, I guess this is what a video game is. I'm not going to think about it. But I think it's really, really interesting to pick them apart.
Yeah, I love it. I was just, before having you on the show today, I was reading through the article that you wrote about, I think it was about the epoch from Chrono Trigger and just where that comes from. And even just the beginning of the article about you sort of making connections to how this sort of thing could happen in that game, and from your history as an editor or having your own work edited was great. So I like you were getting to anybody who enjoys video games or the history of how things can get to where they are is so interesting. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. Yeah, your blog's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You have a brief but just absolutely titanic history on this podcast. I love to do this when I have people back, is just recount their episodes. You first appeared, it's almost been exactly 2 years, on October 25th, 2023, on episode 184, where we discussed Second Densetsu 3, aka Secret of Mana 2, aka Trials of Mana. I'm curious at this moment, have you revisited that game since? Has that popped in your mind at all?
Yeah, because I actually got a PlayStation 5 primarily to play Street Fighter 6 and the newest Secret of Mana game, which is Visions of Mana, which was beautiful and great. And I feel it didn't get quite enough attention in like the retro nerd world or even the current RPG nerd world. I really, really liked it, and it dipped back into previous games in really interesting ways. So, while I was waiting for it to come out, I played the remake of Secret of Mana that came out for, I think, PlayStation 4 maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, because I hadn't played that version of Secret of Mana in a while, and I wanted to read a new translation of it. And then Visions of Mana came out, and it was such a great game. That might have been my personal game of the year.
Wow, I think I want to say that was 2024. Does that feel right? Or was that earlier this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only people I heard discuss it are now you and then Nadia Oxford on Axe of the Blood God. She was discussing it, and because I kept seeing it I want to say it was like in a lot of Xbox showcases as well. And yeah, it looked incredible. So that's gonna keep that on the top of mind for me. The other episode you were on was episode 198, where we discussed your top 10 favorite video games of all time. This was with our mutual friends and actually how we met, Patrick Ellers and Mark Mitchell of the Nintendo Cartridge Society. And I think the game you brought on for today may have appeared on your top 10 list.
I would not be surprised. It's my favorite fighting game.
I could have looked that up before you came on, but I didn't, and I just speculated.
If I didn't put it in my top 10, I was wrong.
Yeah. Well, I'll go, after we record today, I'll go ahead and look back, and then I'll let you know if you were wrong or not. We're about to get into some discussion of your recent history with video games. But speaking of the game we've been just dancing around this whole time, will you introduce what you've brought on for the main event later and call me by your game?
The game I have brought to discuss is Darkstalkers, the 1994 Capcom fighting game that's full of monsters.
Can't wait. More no perfect time. I guess we're doing a bit of our own monster mash today for this October episode. Man, years ago, I think when I had more time on my hands, I was theming this show and asking people like, "Do you have any scary or spooky games or any anything costume related we can discuss?" And I'm glad that you brought this to me to discuss today. Otherwise, it would have been nothing on theme for the month of October.
Immediately after we recorded the last one, which is also a Halloween episode, I was like, "Oh God damn it! I should have done Darkstalkers. That would have been the perfect Halloween thing."
Yeah.
So this, I'm like making up for that now, I think.
I love it. Well, we're going to get into that in the main event later. I'm very excited. But when it comes to your recent history with video games, it's only been 2 years since you first came on the show and we had that initial discussion. But in a broad sense, have you seen any changes or trends in your gaming in the last 2 years? I know it's a short amount of time, but I figured I'd ask.
It's even harder for me to finish stuff now because work, like, and I say this as like an unmarried person who works from home, and you'd think I'd have more time to play video games because I really just me and my dog. But I usually think like, oh, I'll play it after dinner, like after I finish watching TV, and by that time it's usually like 10 o'clock, and I'm 43, and I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. Like
Yeah.
I think I need to save and go to bed, and that's it. So I was on a Retronauts about Donkey Kong Bonanza recently, and I had to finish it in order to be on the podcast. And I like had to push myself, and there was a day where I had to like, all right, I'm just gonna sit down and play video games for like 5 hours, and my eyes got sore, and like the next day, like my hands sort of hurt from holding the controller. I'm like, how did I do this as a kid?
Yes.
Like I feel like I just lost that muscle memory to like sit and like hunker into a video game. So sadly, like my video game experience is even more slight. Like I didn't finish Echoes of Wisdom, that new Zelda game, which I
Oh,
love.
yeah.
And I really love that game, and it just fell by the wayside. And yeah, so I need to like either I need to have an intervention where someone's being like instead of like your drinking is taking too much of your life, it's like you're not spending enough time on video games.
Yes.
Or I just need to like reschedule my life to like have video game time in the middle of the day, which seems like the kind of thing that I don't like how that sounds, if that makes sense. But yeah, just finding time. I mean, how do you find time? Like you work from home, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly am relating to a lot of what you're saying. Still am able to finish the occasional game, some for podcasts and some for not. But in the last few weeks, I think because we've been leading up to this trip to Japan that I've been telling you about, but I've been cramming extra work. I've been busier than normal. People have been in town, and I've been feeling like almost antsy that I haven't been playing games that much.
Right.
And I look at my list even this year of the games that I have completed or have in progress, and I just haven't had time. So the answer is I haven't been making time. And I think also kind of like my professional life where I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, involved in a lot of things as we've been discussing. When it comes to hobbies and interests, I'm also feel very spread out. I love, as we know, the thing that connected us initially is video games. That's one of my primary ones. I'm also like I love watching and playing sports. I love reading. I love I've been going to more movies this year. So
Yeah.
I guess you could, if I want to put a silver lining on it, I've been more balanced, but I have really feel like an itch to play more games. And I'm hoping on travel coming up, I'm just gonna do that on the 12-hour flight.
That makes sense. I would encourage some version of sleep, but video games are also important.
Yes, maybe I'll have a little balance of the two of those.
Yeah.
So that's like, you getting us into this discussion of your recent history with games. Speaking of which, this might be maybe a good tangent on that. Is there a game, like whether recent or from the past, that you feel like a guilt that's in your backlog? This could be something that you're like, wow, this is a missing piece in this series that I haven't touched, or something that you've been wanting to get to for a while.
Jesus. Okay, so I talked about having like console envy when I was younger, and that game is Lunar, which was an RPG that
Oh,
came out for Sega CD back in the day, and they have a like relatively good version of it that's available for Switch and Switch 2. I was playing that when Switch 2 came out, and then Switch 2 is like this whole thing. And my lonely Switch has just been sitting on my dresser waiting for me to pick it up and finish Lunar just so I could like, and there's a sequel that is, takes place in the same universe, which is the thing RPGs usually don't do. And it is weird to be like, God, like 12-year-old me would have been all over this. And
Yes.
you're just letting it sit there. But also like I have to like rake leaves and, like walk my dog. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, priorities.
Yeah.
You've brought up the Switch 2 a couple times. I know you said that you had played Donkey Kong Bonanza, but what are your early impressions of the Switch 2 and what have you been playing?
Two things: Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart Tour. And I don't think I'll ever pick up Mario Kart Tour again. I think I'm done with it, which is
You
weird
did
because
it.
I was very excited for Mario Kart Tour, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I think I did it. I think I saw the things. There's characters I still haven't unlocked, and I was talking to in the Discord on Nintendo Cartridge Society. They started a Donkey Kong Bonanza thing, and the thing I was curious about was like, I wasn't excited about Donkey Kong Bonanza because I like Donkey Kong Country, and I initially was worried it would be a departure from Donkey Kong Country, and it is, but I also like it. It's a very good game. And for some reason, it made me want to collect stuff, whereas Tour, I was like, oh, I don't want to. Am I saying Tour? World. Mario Kart. I always confuse
World,
Mario Kart
yes.
World and Tour to this day because they seem interchangeable, even though the games are different. So World, I just don't want to collect any of that.
Yeah.
I don't need stickers. Who needs
Yeah.
stickers?
I've
And I was like, what did they do in Bonanza that they didn't do in Tour that like I'm compelled to like dig further as Donkey Kong and not like race around as Birdo?
Yeah, I want to say my instinct initially is that it's something that they also do so well in Odyssey and the Breath of the Wild 2 games is that
Mm,
there's so much to do and it's so immediate. Like those worlds, even the spread out nature of the new Zelda series are so dense, especially Bonanza, where you might slam the ground, you see an outline of a banana, and as you start going for it, there's also like a fossil next to you up on a hill, so you're gonna go for that.
yeah,
Maybe that's part of it.
maybe it is. Maybe there's teasing you a little bit more and giving you a little bit more of a trail to follow, and maybe that's enough. But yeah, I was very surprised that like Bonanza really worked for me, and I think it's like there was a lot stacked against it. I didn't like Tween Pauline.
Yeah. Oh, you
I
didn't
didn't.
like Pauline.
Oh, no, I like Pauline. I was just
Yeah.
like, why is she a? It's just like they're going to explain why she's a 13-year-old. They don't.
Yeah, they
And it's
don't.
like, okay, well, we'll just wonder about that forever. Oddly, it doesn't bother me that the gameplay was so solid. I also didn't like that it wasn't a new Mario Odyssey game or like a new 3D Mario. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to like this much. No, I love it. It's surprisingly like it just connected with me so well. And I'm delighted to be surprised by how much I like this game, and also sort of saddened that like Mario Kart Tour. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, I've gotten a little more of time out of Mario Kart World because I've had
World, gosh,
no, I mean I always if it makes you feel better, I call it Mario Kart World Tour, which is just combining them.
right,
But I've had people around enough to where I've been playing, or it's been fun for me to show people Knockout Tour. That's probably why we're doing this.
yeah,
But I also have, unlike mutual friend Patrick Ellers, I have almost not engaged with the free roam at all. I
yeah.
was not drawn to it despite giving it a shake, and there's many reasons why that could be. But yeah, the Switch 2 has been so much fun. I feel like I've mostly been playing. I also finished Bonanza and like fell completely in love with it. I can't wait to listen to your. I didn't realize you were on the Bonanza episode of Retronauts, but that has me even more excited. But there's a lot coming out for it this year. Are you looking forward to any of the titles that are on the horizon, whether that be Metroid Prime 4 or I'm trying to think of. I mean, there's the Pokemon title, but I'm not personally interested. Yeah, anything that's on the horizon for you.
I'm not sure that there is anything coming out immediately that I'm super psyched for. I've never been a Prime guy. I liked
Sure.
the original Metroids, and I just never really strayed out of them. And Pokemon, no, I'm too old for that. And there's the Dragon Quest remake,
Oh,
1 and 2 packaged together. I'm interested to see how that does. I'm sure it'll get really well reviewed. but I think that's not even a Switch 2 exclusive. I think it's also on regular Switch, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I don't know. The last direct didn't really do anything that like I was over the moon about, but at this point, even just for having played Bonanza, I'm happy with my Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said too, you already, gave us essentially an idea of your desire and appetite for gaming, which is a lot of retro titles as
Yeah.
well. Have you been playing anything since you finished Bonanza that's been taking up your attention?
No, because
Oh,
literally it was like cramming for a test where like I was like I need to get this done, and we recorded it like maybe 2 weeks ago, and I'm like I'm good, I'm good. I need a break from video games. Also, like I have grown up things that I put off.
yeah.
So maybe this weekend I'll have time to get back into something, and I don't know what it'll be though.
I just keep
Probably
hearing
not Cyberpunk.
Lunar crying out. Are you hearing that as well?
Yeah, but I'm gonna pick it up at like 10:45 when I finish doing stuff and like make 20 minutes progress and then like fall asleep and then it's gonna run out of batteries like on my chest and that will be the end of my night. So
Yes.
that's
I sorry, this is a little bit of backtracking, but I just had something I wanted to ask you about Bonanza. I already said that I adored that game, played it for 30 hours, had a very thorough experience is what I felt like. I was wondering for you, when you're playing a game like that or any game for that matter, do you feel the need to see everything or 100% a title, or are you just content with the experience that you have?
so if I was going at my own pace through Bonanza, I would have 100%ed it. I usually
Okay.
100% like Donkey Kong games. I think Donkey Kong Country was the first game I ever got. No, probably Super Mario World was the first thing I did everything for. But I remember getting 101% on Donkey Kong Country, and that was a big deal for like 11-year-old me.
Hmm.
Um, there was just it was almost a relief because I had this like hard deadline. I was like, well, I can't do everything. I just need to like get the basics done just to get see that real ending screen
Yes.
and feel like I did something. And maybe I will probably go back to it, like maybe over the holiday if I don't pick up anything new. That'll be a nice thing to like go back and dip into now and
Yeah.
then. Because yeah, it's a great game. I just sort of overdosed on it.
Totally. I mean, that it's kind of a classic case of, as you and I both know, playing a game for a podcast can both be a great reason to finish it and also it can warp the experience for good or for better or worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did we do this to ourselves? Why did we turn the thing we love into like a form of work?
I don't know. And it prohibits me from playing other stuff when I have to play a certain game.
Yeah.
Um, you had mentioned that you had gotten a PlayStation 5 to play Street Fighter 6. Is that a console that you turn on at all at this point?
No, it's not. Because I haven't bought Street Fighter 6 for Switch 2, so I'm not that ridiculous. But like just the act of having to unplug one thing and plug in another thing is like prohibitive because I'm an extremely lazy person, despite what I just said about my life. And yeah, my poor little PlayStation is also waiting for some love. And there's a lot of cool stuff that's come out for Street Fighter since I've moved on to other things, and I thought that was a great game. I thought that was like a really good sequel to a series I care a lot about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to be discussing a fighting game in a series also from Capcom a little later today. Has that been like a genre for you that has meant a lot over the years?
Yeah, so I was like in middle school when the fighting game boom was happening in arcades, and there wasn't a lot in my hometown, so everyone had their birthdays at like pizza parlors.
Yeah.
So about like once a month, everyone from my class would end up in a pizza parlor, and all the boys would play fighting games. So like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, the Neo Geo games, and Darkstalkers were the four that got the most play. And I'm not going to pretend that I was like good by the terms that like people who are good at them today are
Hmm.
good, but like I just by putting the time into those, I got like good enough at them that I could like kill my classmates, which was a lot of fun.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And you're talking about growing up and going to pizza parlors for birthday parties. We're both from the Central Valley, correct?
I'm from Central Coast, so I'm from like Hollister, which is inland
That's
from Monterey,
right.
but we don't like to be classified as the Valley because we're snobs.
Yes.
So like we're the coast. It's like, well, you're an hour from the coast. What city are you from?
Yes. Oh, I'm from Modesto.
Oh, Modesto. Okay, we talked about this
Yes.
before. Yeah. Yeah. Modesto, bigger city than my city, but also inescapably the valley.
Yeah, well, and it's like you were saying something that's almost a little the opposite of Modestans, where I'll meet people who are from like I'll just hear that Modesto people like to claim the Bay Area when they couldn't be more valley, and Bay
Yeah.
Area people are very protective over that too, being like you're not, you have to go over two coastal plains to get to the Bay Area,
Yeah.
Modesto. Um, well, the last question I want to ask you during this segment is, I kind of, in so many ways, I've been inviting this idea for a little bit, but is there a game that you have? I know there's not really anything coming out for the Switch 2 that you are looking forward to, but is there a game in your backlog or something that you have had your eye on to jump into?
Yes, for sure. And what the hell would it be? A lot of the old Dragon Quest games I never actually
Oh
played because a
yeah.
lot of them didn't actually come out here. They weren't accessible as Final Fantasy. Um, oh my God. It's got to be something other than RPGs. I mean, I write about video games all day. Nothing is jumping to mind though, unfortunately,
It
very boringly.
it'll like it does for a lot of guests. It'll come to you as soon as we're done recording,
Mhm.
and that'll be that. But did you play? You said you're interested in Dragon Quest 1+2. Did you play the third 3 HD 2D?
I haven't, and my friend, I have a friend who works for Square Enix, and he gave me a download code for it,
Oh
and it's
wow.
just sitting there unused because I played Lunar instead, and he was very
Yes.
annoyed by this. I will play it one day, but for some reason, three was not as high on my priority list as one
Sure.
and two because one I actually played when it came out for NES.
Oh, Dragon Warrior.
Dragon Warrior, and didn't understand what an RPG was, and didn't finish it because I was a dumb little kid who didn't figure out that like the levels in RPGs are different than the levels in like a Super Mario Brothers game.
Hmm. Yeah.
Didn't know that. That was very confusing. I want to go back to it, and also I want to see how they updated it for a modern gaming world where
Yeah.
like it's a party of one. You have one hero and no allies in your party, and that might be a very
Oh.
dull experience. But I'm sure they've done something to attend to that to make
Huh.
it work in 2025. I'm very curious to see how they do that. So that, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, all this, I barely asked you about JRPGs at all. I know I said that was the last question, but I know you're a fan of old school JRPGs. Do any of the more modern series interest you, whether it's like a Persona or even what they've sort of done with the Yakuza series?
Persona, that's exactly it. So my roommate,
Oh,
who's also the co-host on my podcast, is a big Persona fan and loved Persona 5. And I was like, I should play Persona 5. Also, it's everywhere. Like,
yes.
I keep seeing these characters appear in other contexts, and I'm like, well, I should probably know who they are. Everyone seems to think that this is a perfect game. And then the other ones in the Persona series, and then the Shin Megami Tensei series from which Persona
Yes.
comes. Haven't played those.
Mm.
The one that came out more recently that was like a fantasy version of Persona, and it had a weird name,
Oh,
and people are probably screaming the name at me right now.
gosh. It
Yeah.
was like in the Shin Megami Tensei series or Persona?
It was the same company, but it was not a
Oh,
installment.
yes, it was last year. It was
Yeah,
huge.
huge name. Everyone said it was great.
I'm gonna
Funny
look it
name.
up.
Can't remember.
Oh, come on. It's Atlas RPG 2024. It is Metaphor Refantasio.
That's it.
That's it. Yes.
Really stupid name. Don't know what
Yeah.
that's supposed to mean. Maybe I'll play the game and be like, oh, it's actually not a stupid name after all. But in spite of the name sounding like a weird car that I would never buy, everyone says it's great and I want to play it. And yeah, that's a huge one for me. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that this. Okay, like screw Bonanza. I will play that this holiday when
Yes.
everything's down. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm glad we actually got to the one you were thinking of being the Persona series, but also Refantasio.
Mhm.
Uh, incredible. Drew, is there anything else you want to say about just video games in general before we head to break?
Tell me how people who have spouses and like live in partners,
Mm.
how do you have time to play video games? I don't understand this. As a single person, I should have nothing but time and I don't. And like most of my friends are like coupled and they like Mark and Patrick both like got through Bonanza way before I did because they were on the NCS Discord. And I'm like,
Yes.
how did they do that? How
Yeah.
do they have time? I don't understand. Please explain to me how you're budgeting your time to make room for video games. I need to learn from you.
Yes. It makes
Yeah.
me want to like I know when like a couple other big indie releases have come out recently and like Silk Song and Hades 2 and I've just had friends who have basically just been like, "Oh, that's all I did this weekend was play this game and then they blew through it." And I just haven't done that.
It cut out. I heard Silk Song and Hades too, but I
Oh,
assume that you haven't gotten to them, is what you said.
I have, but like I remember it's back to your point of how do people play these games so quickly. I remember
Mhm.
the weekends where after they came out, I would just hear from people be like, "Yeah, I like got through all of it," or I played it for 20 hours," and I'm like, "Is that I must just need to carve out a weekend for games," and I just don't do that. It almost feels like a pat on the back. I'm like, "Oh, I live a balanced life. I do it. I do other stuff."
You're playing sports. I don't even have sports to claim. That's not even part of my life. Watching or engaging with sports. So you're technically even doing better than me. But yeah, I can't figure it out either.
As long, you know what? I'm just gonna clip that of you saying I'm doing better than you, Drew. That's all I needed today.
Yeah.
This was so much fun to catch up with you about video games in general. We're gonna go ahead and take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll finally get into all things Darkstalkers. So, Drew, I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to Call Me by Your Game. Connor McCabe returning to the microphone with my guest, Drew Mackie. Drew, hello.
Hello.
Finally, we're going to do some table setting for the main event here and discuss Darkstalkers. I have prepared some basic context about this game. I'm sure you're going to dive into much more as well. But Drew, this is a reminder that if you want to jump in as I am talking and monologuing about the series in the first game, you've got the green light, okay?
Okay. Can I jump in?
Oh, please jump in.
One thing I was really curious to ask you, as someone who's a little bit younger and who may not have even been into video games while this thing was having its heyday, what did you know about this series before you even started reading about it for this episode?
I knew that Darkstalkers was a fighting game series. I had seen Morgana plenty of times.
Mhm.
And then there's another character. And I knew that it was kind of about monsters, but I didn't realize how much sort of tied to like folklore that a lot of these characters are.
Mhm.
So it was pretty basic understanding of the series.
Most people know her. I had an ex who didn't even play video games and called her Boob Lady, but like knew who she was. I was like,
Yes.
yeah, that works. Boob Lady's a good name for her. There's a reason she became very popular.
Yes, yeah. And if anyone doesn't know who Morgana is, then you will know pretty soon. But yeah, so pretty basic understanding. I have all sorts of levels of experience with games on this show, whether it be one that is super important to me or that I have extensive experience with. And this is really on the other end of one I've only been aware of truly the last 6 or 7 years once I started listening to video game podcasts more.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But let's dive into some history and context about this game. Again, jump in anytime. Darkstalkers, known in Japan as Vampire: The Night Warriors, is a 1994 fighting game developed and released by Capcom, originally for the CPS2 arcade hardware, as the first game in the Darkstalkers series. It is set in a pastiche gothic fiction universe with characters based on monsters from international folklore such as Frankenstein's monster, a fish man, a succubus, and more. It features a stylized 2D graphic art style with sprite-based artwork that was beautifully animated. We had already mentioned Morgana as I actually probably had seen her in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. She's in that game, right?
She and a few others, but she's like
Yes.
the only one from this series. I should correct you. It is Morrigan.
Oh, why have I been seeing?
Because
Okay,
Morgana
Morgan.
is like from King Arthur, and like she's a Scottish character, so it sort of makes sense that she'd be classified as this, but is actually an unrelated. She's a succubus. The name is a different Scottish entity that
Okay.
is unrelated to Morgana Le Fay. But it is she's witchy, so it makes sense. But you're not the only person to call her Morgana.
Okay. And you know what? We were just talking about Persona. I think there is a character in Persona 5 named that, but that's not important. Morgan is the probably the best known character, at least especially from people who aren't haven't really engaged with the series. But there's Dimitri as well. Who are some other characters that like stick out to you when you think of Darkstalkers?
People seem to know John Talbane, who's the Wolfman.
Yes.
He has his own dedicated nerds who find him to be extremely sexy, either in wolf form or pre-wolf form. Before the match starts, he turns into the wolf from human form. Felicia's the cat lady. She also could be boob lady technically,
Yes.
but she's essentially naked with like little swirls of fur that are just barely covering her areola. It's a very I think they took a little bit too much fun drawing her.
Yeah.
Anakaris is the mummy, and he's like the Dalsum of this game in some ways. And he doesn't even like he looks like a moving sarcophagus with like wrapped arms. But people know him because he has a curse move where he like vomits a curse on other characters and reduces them down to like Morgan turns into a little female bat, and Felicia the Catwoman turns into a little kitten. Things like
Yeah.
that. Who else? There is a Chinese hopping ghost, which is a thing that you only necessarily know if you're not of Chinese descent and you watch martial arts movies, where sometimes a non-supernatural martial arts movie will even feature a scene where they're fighting these blue-skinned weirdos that have like a strip of paper tacked to their forehead. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah. The imagery is familiar.
So they have a female one of those who also has giant boobs, named Senko.
Boob Lady 3.
Boob Lady 3. They really are all Boob Lady. They really knew what they were marketing to here.
Boob ladies and sexy men. Because the fish man's like pretty attractive too.
He's like notoriously unusually beautiful for a creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
They do map onto the universal horror icons rather well, which is another thing where it's like, yeah, it's folklore, but it's also a very pop culture take on folklore where like it's not Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It's very much a version of the Boris Karloff's Frankenstein. But like he's also like a buff muscle daddy, and like one of his punches is with his like muscular butt.
Yeah, I have seen this animation before.
It's like it's a weird cross section between it's sexy, but it's also very cartoonish. So I'd say like the sort of Tex Avery sort of cartoons where it's zany but like overly sexed up, which is very strange. Sasquatch. Sasquatch is everyone's favorite character. He's one of the rare Canadian representatives in a fighting game, and he's a big, chubby, white Yeti who vomits snow on you, and he's adorable, and everyone loves him. Yeah.
Yeah, you had mentioned that he's the Canadian representation. I'm also have come to understand that in this first game too, kind of like the Street Fighter series, every character is sort of from a country, right? Yeah. Which I would never have guessed, and I also, from at least from the research I was doing, that's something that doesn't really appear after the first game.
No, I think Hisenko comes in the second one, and she's specifically Chinese, but everyone else, like, they just go into they're some kind of demon. No, we don't care.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
A little bit more about this game is that in the single player mode, the player chooses one of 10 available characters and fights the other 9 available. Once they've defeated their foes, they can face off against 2 computer-only bosses, at least in this first game. In the robot, forgive me, I don't know how to pronounce this character's name. Huitzel?
I think it's Huitzel.
Huitzel, that makes sense. Hui. And then the alien Fire Pyron as well. So that's sort of like the main single player mode, but I also I come to understand that a second player can join the fight at any time, and whoever wins moves on. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you could like hijack my game. I could get like to the last boss, and you could jump in, fight me, and then beat the game, and your character gets the ending, and my character doesn't.
That's so
That
silly.
is entirely a possibility. Huitzel, by the way, robot, is an Aztec robot. So they designed him to look like Aztec technology, and the idea is that like the Aztecs had these robots, and they're all basically defunct, and he's the one that's like been reactivated, and it's a really thoughtfully done thing where they incorporated Aztec design, like I guess probably broadly Mesoamerican design into this character, but it's another thing where it's like, yeah, he's technically from a country, and he is sort of representing it to a degree, and it's nice.
Oh, that's really cool. I love that. This is just more basic information about the series, but Darkstalkers uses the gameplay system Capcom developed for the Street Fighter II series, but with several new gameplay features such as air blocking, crouch walking, and chain combos. I think air blocking is also air canceling, I want to say.
Also air dashing, which I wanted to look into this and be very technical about it for this podcast, and I'm not a fighting game expert. And if you go onto like Reddit and like, did Darkstalkers really invent like air blocking? They'll be like, no. Technically, World Heroes did that first because of this. And they'd be like, no. Actually, they didn't really do that because of this. And I was like, okay, you guys know more than I do. I'm gonna let you argue it out. Broadly, it is credited with it introducing a lot of these new mechanics to Capcom fighting games, and then they spread out from there. But like the aerial combat that you see in like Marvel vs. Capcom, you know how you're jumping a lot, and a lot of those fights are done in air. That is a result of Darkstalkers.
Oh, incredible. So you can see that DNA moving forward in that big mashup series. That's awesome.
And from there on to like Guilty Gear and BlazBlue and games like those as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to see where influences have, I guess, lived on. This game, another thing that I learned about this game is that it featured a special meter similar to the Super Combo gauge from Street Fighter II Turbo, in which the player can fill up a meter to perform either a unique combo, or which is called EX in the Darkstalker series, or a powered up version of one of their specials called ES. I think a difference between this and the Street Fighter II Turbo is that this meter can expire. So it's not something you can just hang on for the most opportune moment. You kind of need to use it.
You do. So there's a strategy element to it. And also, I could be mistaken, but I think it's the first game to do, like, every character has a super move, much like you had in Super Street Fighter II Turbo, which I think was the first Street Fighter game to have super moves. But I think the ES move is different than a super move, where it's just a buffed up version of a regular move that will also use your meter. So there's another strategy element to that. But I think that's also very much standardized in fighting games that are Capcom games and beyond, where you have the option of doing a super move that will use your entire meter, or a souped up special move that will only use part of your built up meter.
Oh, okay. So you got a couple options there.
Yeah.
Lastly, what I have here is more just about the legacy of this first game. It was ported from we said it originally came out in 1994 for the arcade, but then it was ported to the PlayStation in 1996 and was followed by Night Warriors: Darkstalkers Revenge in 1995. This first game was very well reviewed upon release, and the series now has a cult following. In later years, the game was re-released on the PlayStation Network, and most recently was a part of the Capcom Fighting Collection in 2022 that was released on various platforms. And one notable thing about it, even though it's got there's been ports and collections like the one we just referenced, the final original game in the series was released in 1997 as Darkstalkers 3. So it's I don't know if describing it as a dead series is the most accurate thing, but there hasn't been a new game since 97.
Like in a coffin and rotting. And that is why it's super appealing to me, because you're someone that didn't know about these games until recently.
Yeah.
And it is interesting that like this has been a dead series for 30 years almost. And these characters live on because they're really interesting designs. And there's something about their visual appeal that is still calling out to people all these years later. They do show up in the crossover games. Like there has never been a Capcom crossover that doesn't have at least Morgan. Sometimes it's more people. But in 2012, there was a repackaging, and I'm not sure what systems it came out for. I'm not even sure which consoles would have been the consoles that would go onto at that point. But it was all three games loaded onto a collection and like done well. And the idea was that maybe if it sells well enough, Capcom would revisit it in a new game. It didn't. And it was a huge bummer because there's a lot of love for these characters. I think at Capcom, even, they like these characters as well. So that's why they keep using them. But they've been so locked into their big three, which is Street Fighter, Monster Hunter, and
Resident Evil?
Resident Evil, thank you. That we don't see them trying something smaller. They're kind of blockbuster only. I mean, they haven't made a new Mega Man game in a long time either. But it's this really interesting state where essentially they drove a stake through the heart of an undead series, and now it's just like fully dead and not coming back, and may not ever come back, because what Capcom is doing with fighting games now is not this art style. This art style is the style. So this came out in 1984. That is before Street Fighter Alpha was released. And Street Fighter Alpha was the intermediary series between Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 3. And Alpha features animation a lot more like Darkstalkers, where it seems more like it's hand-drawn. There's a lot more animated frames that you saw in the original Street Fighter. It's done more in an anime style. And in fact, a lot of the mechanics that were introduced to the Street Fighter series and Street Fighter Alpha came from Darkstalkers, because Darkstalkers was like their test series. Like, we're going to make a series that's not Street Fighter where we can do weird things. And if people like the weird things, they're going to make it into Street Fighter. If people don't like the weird things, we're going to discard it, which is actually a clever marketing idea, but not something they can do now because that's not how their business is structured anymore. Let's see, where was I?
Yeah, what you were talking. Oh, just how this. I think we were just. Go ahead.
The art style.
Yes.
So like Street Fighter 3 comes out. Street Fighter 3 is like a super detailed, giant sprites, very lovingly animated style.
Yeah.
And Street Fighter 4, 5, and 6 are all 3D modeled characters that aren't done in that style anymore. And that makes more sense for Capcom because you can do skins. Like you can buy new outfits for these characters and they just graph right onto the frames you've already created for them. And it works pretty well. And like the models they have now, they look great.
Yeah.
But that's because it's a more economical process than drawing everything by hand. And they're not in the business of doing this hand-drawn animation before. So if they made a new Darkstalkers today, I would imagine it would be done in the Street Fighter 6 style and not in this hand-drawn style that people love. It's not necessarily true because other people are doing, like Guilty Gear is a series that's still done in the hand-drawn style.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that they inherited from it. And that new Marvel game, the Guilty Gear company is doing that new Marvel fighting game.
Oh, wow.
And I can't remember exactly what it's called. Marvel something Tokon. They announced it a few months ago. And this is notable because it's done in the hand-drawn style and it looks great. And it is the first fighting game that stars Marvel characters that's not be done by Capcom.
Oh.
Which is really interesting. So it's like, oh, maybe Capcom doesn't have that anymore. Maybe Marvel's like, we're going to go with someone else because maybe we feel another company might be able to handle these characters in a way we think is like aesthetically interesting, and that's why they went with the Guilty Gear company. So I don't know, maybe Capcom could respond to losing the Marvel franchise by doing their own hand-drawn thing and be like, hey, we can still do this and do a new Darkstalkers and show off they still have that talent. But I don't know. I don't know if they'd actually do that at this point. Yeah,
the future is super unclear for that, but I guess if we ever hear anything, we'll hear something. But a lot of you dove into a lot of really interesting reasons why it may or may not come back, whether it be Capcom's business model, how they sort of do things with their 3D fighting games as well. Who knows? When it comes to today is going to be a very interesting case because this is a game that you requested to bring on, so it may have a sort of different place than a lot of games can have for people who do come on the show. So if you ever want to get off the rails as far as like some of the standard questions that I'll ask about it, we can absolutely do that. But where I want to start is, how did you discover this game and what do you remember about its early impressions on you? So this came out in, I think, summer of 1994, and I would have been in 6th grade. And that would also be around the time that there was a boom in video game magazines. And like, I would go to my local grocery store, and as we talked, I grew up in a small town in the middle of nowhere, and reliably that grocery store would have like 7 or 8 different video game publications on the magazine shelf. They were big business. People bought these, and it just is really weird to think about because people don't buy any print publications anymore, much less multiple video game publications. But this is something that got teased in those magazines before it was released. And it was like, hey, Capcom is doing a new series. It's not Street Fighter. It has monsters. I'm in 6th grade, so I'm going to say, well, obviously I like monsters. Show me more monsters. And also Boob Lady. And it was this very exciting thing. And then it was like this thing of like, wait, I wonder how long it'll take to get to my hometown pizza place. And it didn't take that long because even the hometown pizza place knew that like this is something that 12-year-olds would dump a lot of quarters into. So it was very exciting. Did I even know what anime was at this point? I don't know. I sort of knew there's this art style that comes out of these Japanese games that seems
exotic and like weird and detailed and beautiful in a way that like Western animation never was. And one of the primary ways I was like accessing it, aside from instruction manuals for Nintendo games, was arcades. And this was just such a beautifully done, stylized game that for the monster reason, for the boob lady reason, for everything, I was just like, I want to play this game. The attract screen is very, very flashy and is the kind of thing that knows how to get attention and still probably would all these years later.
Yes. Do you remember maybe early moments playing that game at this pizza place and just like, I guess, glomming onto it?
Yeah, and being like, I want to play as Boob Lady, and
Yeah.
which was great because her and Dimitri basically function like Ryu and Ken in Street Fighter. They're like very similar to each other, and if you know how
Okay.
to play as Ryu in Street Fighter, you can play as either of them without too much trouble. And yeah, it was probably the first time I played as a female character in a fighting game because I knew she was a Ryu type character, and I would be able to play as her pretty easily. And yeah, I think my friends were impressed that I could pick up a new game and be very good at it because they didn't realize it was such a direct translation of Street Fighter initially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was this something that you were playing with friends or just playing, I guess, other strangers at this parlor?
So when I feel like if there were strangers at the parlor, the like 12-year-olds who were having a birthday party would have driven them out.
Sure.
They're like, oh God, like if you were like a teenager and a bunch of 12-year-olds come in, he's like, we need to go somewhere else. This place just got very uncool. And like I said, it was like regular enough that people would have pizza party birthdays that like maybe if I was at the pizza place with my parents, I would be like, can I have like a quarter? And I would go play and then like instantly get my ass kicked by like a teenager, and that would be it. But primarily it was a pizza birthday thing. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, that's great. I still have this is off topic. I still have my own memories too of like the certain games we would play arcade specific at pizza parties or at like bigger sort of I only know to call them as like a Funworks. Like is there a name for those arcade like venues that also have like putt-putt golf, go-karts?
Yeah.
What do we call
Um,
those?
it's not like a Dave and Buster's because you have the outside element as well.
Yeah.
We didn't really have any of those growing up. We had, have you ever go to Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk?
Yes, yes.
So they had that. They had Neptune's Kingdom, which was the pirate themed mini golf, and they had an attached arcade. That's I think the closest thing to where I grew up that we had. I didn't grow up in a great community. There was not. They closed the bowling alley like when I was like in fifth grade,
Oh,
and yeah, not a lot of things to do that weren't the Pizza Place arcades. Unfortunately,
oh my
you in
goodness.
Modesto might have had more access to like more worldly entertainment than Central Coast did.
I think we did because even to hear that like the bowling alley closed, like the bowling alley would have been like it's something fun that we did once or twice a year, but
Yeah,
even to lose that would be devastating.
the bowling alley closed, and then like immediately the teen pregnancy rate went like through the roof,
Oh
and
my
everyone's
God.
like, "Well, duh."
We got rid of the one activity.
Oh.
Uh, Forgive me if you've already, this is ground we've already wandered on, but were you already into fighting games? I think you said you had already kind of dabbled with Street Fighter a little bit.
Street Fighter 2 was like inescapable. It was the one thing you'd find because there was like five different versions of it. And from I actually don't know when the first one came out, but like from elementary school on, Street Fighter 2 and then Mortal Kombat came out as well. And those were just it would be weird if a pizza parlor didn't have both of those,
Sure.
much less one or the other. And it was just so thoroughly soaked into like boy culture
Hmm.
of kicking the shit out of each other. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. Kicking the shit out of each other as like a form of recreation,
Hmm.
which I think was great because it prevented us from kicking the shit out of each other in real life
Sure.
because you get to do it through these like digital avatars. It was just so marketed to us
Hmm.
and yeah, like sort of without even thinking about like what we were engaging with. We're just like, okay, this is something boys do, and it was the one boy activity I really excelled at. Because like I sucked
Sure.
at sports, and like nothing else was a really good fit for me. But physical combat, yes.
Yeah, this was like your sport essentially. Uh
But then Darkstalkers was like the weird version of that, where it's like, oh, this is this, but also like I feel like it's like appealing to like my inner horror nerd, which I didn't even know I liked horror at the time. But it was and hey, another thing, it was the first time Capcom did a themed game.
oh.
So like this preceded X-Men Children of the Atom, which was the first X-Men, the first Marvel fighting game. This preceded
Oh.
it by about 6 months. And I think X-Men Children of the Atom was the game that probably had a bigger run because the appeal of X-Men is bigger than appeal of like vampires and Frankensteins.
Yes.
But before that, most fighting games have just been like a bunch of world warriors gather to have a martial arts tournament that each represent a country. And then this is the first time it's like, what if they were monsters? And it's like, oh, yeah, we can do that. And then out from there, you start to see fighting games get weirder and more specifically themed. Maybe Samurai Showdown came out first, but it wouldn't have been by very long. But like you get more and more of like niche things that are appealing to a specific audience because there were so many people playing fighting games at the time. But yeah, like when you think about anything that's not that Street Fighter World Tournament setup, Darkstalkers is kind of the first one.
Wow, that's really interesting. I wouldn't even considered that, considering that, yeah, like you're mentioning Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, which are just they are essentially it's literally a fighting tournament for
Yeah.
both of those games. That's the setting rather than, yeah, what you were saying.
Yeah.
Do you remember once this game is like sort of in the rotation for you, you're playing it at the occasional pizza party. When it comes to the gameplay, do you have any sort of memory as far as how you connected with the game, whether there were hurdles or things you really enjoyed about it?
So I started out playing as Morgan and Dimitri because they're the Ryu and Ken analogs and I knew how to play as them. And the other characters don't line up quite so easily with standard Street Fighter types because the game is weird and like I said, like the mummy is sort of Dalsum, but like sort of the merman is sort of Dalsum. And so as I'm giving more time with this game, I ended up playing as the merman because I found out that I don't even know what kind of character he would be. This would be another question for like um, someone who knows the more technical side of fighting games.
Sure.
But even though I wasn't aesthetically drawn to the merman right away, I found just by playing the game, I was like, oh, I can be very effective as him because he has a weird set of like, I guess zoning moves is what you call them. And that was a style I didn't even know existed until someone had it like explained to me. Like, oh, that's what you're doing. I'm like, oh, okay. And then moving on from there, characters that fought like him or had so like he has a sonar move where like he screams sound waves and as if someone's jumping in towards you, it suspends them in air and makes them vulnerable for a second. And in Mortal Kombat 2, Katana has one of those with her fans where she swings a fan and it like has a push like upward diagonally. And I'm like, oh, she can do that. I'm going to play as Katana because I know how to use that move really effectively.
Yes.
And this has been something that like I've been drawn to in later fighting games and was only something I achieved by experimentation.
Okay, yeah, that's incredible to like see that analog in another game and how you can approach it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is this a? I'm sure the answer I could probably guess, but you really enjoyed the first one. Was it one that? Did you have a PlayStation growing up? Did you?
No. Yeah, I did have a PlayStation, but I didn't have any fighting games on. I only got it to play Final Fantasy VII.
Okay, yeah,
And then it's like a bunch of Squaresoft. Was it exclusively Squaresoft games? It might have been. It might have just
yeah.
been like Square RPGs, and that was like the dedicated use for my PlayStation. And I didn't get to have fighting games on home consoles until like much later.
So for you, I guess at least the Darkstalkers series, that was a primary arcade experience for you.
Yeah, and then in college they had one at the laundromat I used to use,
Oh,
which was a dream come true. Except for like the owner of the laundromat had like a 7-year-old who was just like stuck there because that's where mom works, and he could beat me because like that was the only game he had to play, and he was better at me. And he'd like try to give me tips. I'm like, I'm good, thank you. I'm in college. I don't need to hear from you. But
I'm
he
already
could
embarrassed that I'm losing to you, 7-year old.
like you're standing on a stool because you can't see the screen unless you're on a booster. Whatever. He was very good. I hope he went somewhere great with his life.
Where we were last is I had just asked you about describing the pizza parlor. You had just started by just saying how it was a giant pizza parlor. I think that's all I got.
Okay, so 90s Pizza Parlor. It's one of two pizza parlors that are on opposite ends of the same like strip mall. One is
Okay.
a Round Table. Is Round Table something you're familiar with?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's where we would go.
So some people get confused when I talk about Round Table because they're like, "Oh, I wouldn't have that here," and I'm like, "It was like a vaguely King Arthur themed pizza place."
Yes.
But like so very vague. I don't know why they even called it that because like they didn't go deep on the theming at all. And the other side was a lesser chain that was Mountain Mike's.
Oh my God, that's my favorite though. Mountain Mike's.
I think I preferred Round
Oh,
Table's
Drew.
pizza, but Mountain Mike had the better arcade.
Okay, cool.
Like the arcade was like twice as big, and it was in between like the birthday unit where they'd like silo the birthday people to keep them away from the normals because obviously birthday children scream for no reason and no one wants to be around that. But the like arcade's right in the middle, so you have to go past it even if you're just ordering pizza. And it was a dingy, oily, poorly lit thing with like controls that had never been cleaned, and like you just had to contend with the fact that it's like, oh, my hand slipped off the joystick because someone ate like a 5 cheese pizza and then did not wash their hands.
Yeah,
obviously,
greased up the stick or whatever.
yeah, yeah. Sticky floors, like spilled soda. It's just an unhygienic space in
Yeah.
every possible way that I loved or just endured because it allowed me access to these video games that I couldn't play anywhere else. Obviously.
Yes. And so the Mountain Mikes had the better arcade, meaning Darkstalkers was in the Mountain Mikes.
They had a few fighting games. They had a Lethal Enforcers. They always had one driving game with like a steering wheel control. And what else did they have? Probably something like a Pac-Man to appease the olds or the nonviolent people. And a really good rotating lineup of like other stuff. A Neo Geo, probably a Neo Geo that had like 4 games on it, which is always very popular.
Yes. Okay. You've put me in that setting so well. And the last thing I'll say about Mountain Mikes, because truly I do have like a nostalgia for it, is that I have looked up and there are Mountain Mikes in our area, but the closest one is like Pasadena. And so I want to go get it, but I also don't want to go get a pizza from Pasadena and bring it home to eat because then it's not going to be the way you want it. But anyway.
I mean, you could just have a pizza party in Pasadena and make all your friends meet you in Pasadena.
Now there's an idea. I love it.
You have a girlfriend there. You can also be like, honey, we're going somewhere very special.
Yes.
It's in Pasadena. Get ready, dress up real nice, and then take her to Mountain Mike's.
Here's the fanciest thing we've ever done. Well, that setting. Thank you for scene painting for me, by the way. It's an exercise I love having people do. From this time in your life, what are some broad or specific details that you remember, whether it be what, I think you said you may have been in 6th grade, what 12-year-old Drew would have been up to, things you enjoyed?
Simpsons.
All right.
Yeah, it's definitely Simpsons.
Early Simpsons, too. I mean, at most season 4 or so?
Season 5.
Yeah.
So I remember I had science camp that year, and I don't know if that's a thing that like all like schools do where you go away for a week. Like your class goes away to like what is a summer camp in the summer, but during the school year they host schools, and like we went to the Santa Cruz Mountains and like learned about banana slugs and like what sort of like plants you can eat on a nature hike and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So I was at summer camp when the Simpsons Halloween episode aired, and that was the one with like the Dracula parody.
Okay. Yeah.
Where he's like hammers the stake into Mr. Burns, and Lisa's like, Dad, that's his crotch.
Yeah. That's part of the Treehouse of Horrors, right? Or is that separate? Yeah.
No, that is the 4th Treehouse of Horror, and I had to watch it later because my parents. I was like, "You're going to record it, right? You have to record it. Like, please don't forget to record it." And then got to watch it when I came back. It was very exciting for me. That's 6th grade me.
That's amazing. We did the previous episode before this one that releases with you. I had a friend come on and discuss refurbishing an original Simpsons arcade cabinet.
Oh my God.
So the Simpsons have been like very, very much on my brain as something that I was not allowed to watch as a kid because Bart was mean to his parents. And my parents were worried I'd be a smart aleck, and I already was. So it was a late thing for me.
My parents let me watch it, but they did blame Bart for lots of things, and I was like, I think you're giving Bart a little too much credit and me not enough credit, but okay.
Yeah. I was this way already. Someone else brought up to me recently, like we should have been a lot more concerned about Homer's behavior than Bart's, but
Homer strangles Bart, like frequently. Like he puts his hands around his neck and chokes him in anger all the time, and that's a really fucked up thing. And yeah.
And that's not the issue my parents had with it.
No.
So big Simpsons fan. You probably, I'm sure, were playing video games at the time. Probably had a Super Nintendo.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And I was just learning. I knew what RPGs were, but I was becoming an RPG nerd, but I couldn't let anyone know about that because that was like shameful. Like fighting games were an acceptable version of video game participation, but like a Final Fantasy, no one even knew what Final Fantasy was. So I had to keep that to myself. It was one of many secrets.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
From this time in your life too, maybe even at the parlor, do you have any hyper specific memories of a particular birthday there, yours or someone else's?
They all blend together because they were all at one of the other pizza places. And I remember, yeah, so it was like that fucked up thing that kids do where like, oh, it's a boy party, so it's at the pizza place, and like you invite the boys from your class, not the girls.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember being like, well, that's stupid. Like, I'll just invite everyone. Like, everyone likes pizza, and like you don't actually have to like segregate everyone by gender. And then everyone else did that. So I like to think I was a gender crusader.
Yes. So thank you
Yeah.
for your service, Drew. I
Hmm.
wonder, I remember that that was also something that went on a lot when I was a kid. It was like up until a certain age, everyone was at birthdays. And then afterwards, it was like I only had boys at like my birthday until like maybe a seventh grade. We started
Yeah.
inviting girls again, probably because we were interested in girls. But I wonder if that's a thing with kids these days.
I don't know what's happening with kids these days. Whenever I interact with like my friends who have kids, I am just full of questions, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't really ever think about that." I was like, have you noticed that little kids call stuffed animals stuffies now?
I have not noticed that, but
Like, someone my age was like, "Oh, you dropped your stuffy." I was like, "What is a stuffy?" They're like, "Oh, a stuffed animal." Like, duh, you idiot. And I was like, we never called them that when I was a kid. And it was like, yeah, I guess that's just what we call them now. I'm like, why? Why? That's such a
yeah.
weird, like, it
Y-
just, I didn't know that was a turn of phrase, but apparently it's
You're
very common
used
now.
to it, but that is new and strange to me.
Yeah. I have no idea how kids, especially in the LA area, are being socialized. I
Yeah.
assume all of their parents are like aging hipster, like
Mhm.
groovy liberals who have really progressive ideas about gender, but maybe not. I don't really know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I'll just grill all my friends with kids the next time I see them. For you, Drew, since we've gotten into a lot of the Darkstalkers game and the context from your from like the era when you really came into contact with it, are there other details about the game itself that really stick out to you, or reasons that you wanted to discuss it today?
Midnight Feast. So Midnight Feast is the super move that is done by Dimitri, who is the Dracula character. And
Oh,
for his thing, he grabs you close, pulls you in, and then if it's a male character, he turns you into a female version of yourself. So like the handsome merman turns into like a standard like mermaid with like gold hair covering her boobs. And the Sasquatch turns into like a cute girl in a snow outfit.
okay.
If you're already a female character, you turn into a sexier version of that character. So like Felicia the Catwoman turns into like a Vegas showgirl.
Okay.
And I think Morgan, who's like a succubus but kind of a vampire, turns into like a sexy nurse, like with a needle for drawing blood.
Oh, okay.
And then he like bites your neck and sucks out your blood. So like then like he throws the desiccated version of you over to the side. But this is very appealing because it means every time Dimitri appears in a game, every character has to have an alternate version who's
Yeah.
like sexy. And this carries over to I think it's Marvel, no, SNK versus Capcom
Yeah.
2. Dimitri's a character in that. So it's like a 48 character roster. And this means like characters like from like the Fatal Fury game and Samurai Showdown all get to have like a cutesy female version they turn into so the vampire can bite them. And it's just a very fun thing to think about the people who make these games being like, what can we do? What's the sexy female version of this character? And they have a
Yeah.
lot of fun with it. So you can watch these compilations on YouTube, and it's a great way of seeing the detailed animation. So I would suggest that this is, even if you're not a horror person, you might get a kick out of this game for the animation because the animation is
Yes.
very good. So like maybe look up a Midnight Feast compilation on YouTube. They're very well done. They're very entertaining to watch.
That's amazing. It seems like well, it's so fun, such a fun idea, but also something that I would have expected one of the mm, I keep calling them mashup games, but the games where these Darkstalkers characters would be in other fighting games that those games would have avoided because of all the work that it takes, but I'm so glad to hear that they actually embraced it.
Yep. It's a value add and probably a work burden, but definitely a value add.
It's almost reminiscent too to me of the thing that Smash Brothers has had to do with Kirby transformations.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Because like, all right, what's the hat? Like, what hat do we put on him? How much of like a disguise is he wearing? And that is interesting because I love, like, the reason I keep my blog is I love thinking about creative people making decisions.
Yeah.
And I would always love to hear how they came to those decisions. They don't always give those interviews, but it's fun to be like, oh, that's what they went with. Interesting.
Yeah.
What a remarkable thing.
Totally. So Midnight Feast, that's an absolutely huge one. Are there other details or things that have stuck with you from Darkstalkers that keep it in your mind to this day?
Okay, so in 3, they add a new character, and in Japan, her name is Boletta, and in America, her name is BB Hood. She's Little Red Riding Hood, and she
Oh,
has like
okay.
a basket and like a little puppy with a bow around his neck that follows her everywhere she goes. And even
Huh.
though they're not doing country of origin as much in the third and final version of the game, she's very much supposed to be an American representative
Hmm.
because her basket is full of guns.
I was wondering what the twist was going to be.
Yeah, so she
Oh my God.
like every type of gun, she is a monster hunter. She's hunting the werewolf. That's her goal is to like kill the werewolf because obviously Little Red Riding Hood doesn't like wolves.
Yep.
But except she's extremely violent. And like her stage is like a children's playground, and I think the name of it is called like Bygone Youth or something. So
Hmm.
it's like a stormy sky and it's empty and there's like garbage blowing through the background. And I'm like, this is such an interesting critique of America, like
Yeah.
through like post Columbine. No, not post Columbine because it's 97. It's actually pre Columbine. So like this is preceding what would become an unfortunate trope of American culture, but we always like guns, so it's not too far off. But it's just this very, very odd thing. It's like, oh, you really got us there, Japan. That's us in a nutshell.
Yeah, truly. Before
Yeah.
it became even more of like a monstrous, like just shadow looming over this country and gun violence.
No.
I doing research for this game, I was seeing animation of Little Red Riding Hood character sort of dance around, and I was like, what's the twist here? And I never once saw any of the gun stuff. She was just like dancing around the screen. That's amazing.
There's one of the dance moves where she kicks like a landmine out from
Okay.
like it falls out from her basket and she like delicately like kicks it over to you and then it explodes.
Wow.
And then the ending, if you win with her, the ending you get is like a storybook style of like
Okay.
a mom wolf and a baby wolf who like are living in the woods. And like the baby wolf is like, I heard about like sometimes there's people that want to hunt wolves. And the mom's like, don't worry, that's just a story. You're safe with me. And then the last screen is like you see the house from outside and you see the silhouette of BB Hood sitting outside. And it's like, oh, she's going to kill this family of wolves. It's a very, very dark, kind of funny ending. Also very American, unfortunately.
Do they have is that a special case for the Darkstalker series where they really go to a creative place to extrapolate like who this character is and what the implications are of the world, or is that something that almost every character gets a version of?
Yeah, sort of. Some of them
Yeah.
get darker endings. Some of them get like special, aesthetically styled versions of their endings that fits in with their thing. Like Felicia grows up to be either a pop singer or a nun who runs an orphanage. And I'm trying to think of the other ones. I've seen them all, of course, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
Well, before we wrap up and I give you a chance to sort of put a bow on, your feelings about this game and the series, was there any other detail that you would be disappointed that you didn't bring up about it? Just a contemplative thought. I've never seen such
Yeah.
contemplative
No, I
thought.
think I probably got everything.
Okay.
Let me actually, I haven't even, my things are down because I'm not even looking at my notes anymore. 1 second.
That's what I wanted to make sure we didn't miss any one of those notes you were really excited about.
There is a meme that's going around, and I think some people might have seen it and not realize it's Darkstalkers. So there was a Western cartoon based on Darkstalkers. As around time, there was like
Yes.
a Saturday morning cartoon based on Street Fighter. Same animation team. It's not good. It's bad. It's not good. It's not well animated. But my roommate brought this to my attention when I told him I was like, "Oh, I'm talking about Darkstalkers." He's like, "Oh, you should talk about the meme." I was like, "What meme? You showed me." So this a very short clip of this guy at his desk being like, "What could go wrong next?" And then an elevator rises out of the ground, and it's obviously an elevator that's rising from hell. And then the door opens, and then Lord Raptor, who's like the zombie
Oh
character in this
yeah.
game, he's like an Australian rocker who's also a zombie, like skids out of the elevator on his knees and like is like playing a guitar, and it's obviously something worse did just happen because like now the elevator to hell opened up and now a zombie's playing guitar in the middle of the room I'm in, and the caption is just life in 2025.
Yeah. Like what could go wrong?
Yep.
What is the explanation for this?
Yep.
Ah, that's great. I better see that. I really hope that now that we're discussing this, then my algorithm is. This is the one time where I want it to be listening and to
Mhm.
share this with me. I could look
It'll
at that.
it will find you, I swear.
Well, to close out, your moment with Darkstalkers here, Drew. Can you put a bow on whatever place it holds for you and why you decided to bring it on today?
It represents a time in video games that like has passed, and I'm old enough to be like, oh yeah, that was a specific thing. It can never happen again because the circumstances with like video game magazines and arcades and pixel art were such that it was like everything was aligned that this wonderful thing happened. It might come back in some form one day, but it won't ever be quite the same. And I'm sort of okay with that because these all exist. You can still find them in like if you live in Los Angeles, just about every like arcade barcade experience you can go to out there has a Darkstalkers game. Put in a quarter, play it, and just take in the art of it because I really do think it's a work of art.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you for bringing this on again, giving me a chance to research it myself and become more familiar, but to discuss it in this month of October here in the year 2025. Before we go, I have a couple of fun segments prepared for you based on you choosing this game today. The first of which is the Fact Me by Your Game segment, where I'm just going to share some fun facts with you about this game you brought on today, Darkstalkers. But based on something you just shared with me, I think you're going to be pretty familiar with. And I have this titled Darkstalkers Beyond the Game. And this is just, I'm going to detail the many ways that Darkstalkers has been portrayed in media outside of this, of the video games. You just brought up I think the English animated series.
Yes.
So you might be familiar with any of these. This is just going to kind of be a listing exercise for me. While Darkstalkers series only had three original games, not counting its ports and compilations, its legacy has lived on through other media. There was a Japanese animated series different than the American one as well, which came out originally in 1995. There has been a comic book series by Udon Comics, manga books, many of them actually, and a handful of books, including novels, also published by Udon. Something I would have never guessed, but have you checked out any of this media?
No. So, to a degree, I think they're like close to canon and sometimes even can influence the canon, but I've
Sure.
never read any of those Street Fighter comic books at all.
hmm
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, but there's a ton of stuff out there. I guess if the three games aren't enough, they can find more media there. I will lead us now into the final segment, the game recommendations. Now, Drew, this is where, if you remember, I'm going to treat Darkstalkers like your passionate summer fling in Italy that is just
Sure.
not going to work out. This is the forced tie-in to the movie Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah.
But in order to help you get over this heartbreak, I've got three potential new flings to introduce you to that all have a little something in common with Darkstalkers. Most importantly, though, I need to know, are you ready to get back out there?
I'm prepared.
I
It's been
love
since
it.
1987 since the last one came out, so I've had 30 years.
Hey, I'm glad you're
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
So the first recommendation is if you like your fighting games, not sexy, but textured, I'll go ahead and recommend Clay Fighter 63 and a third. Have you played either Clay Fighter game?
I played not 63 and a third. I played the ones that came out for Super Nintendo. So I think there was
Yes.
two different ones. They're wild and weird.
They are wild and weird. There's some disturbing stuff in them too. I didn't. I finally played the 63 and a third for like a fighting game night that we had
Mhm.
earlier this year, and boy, is that a strange beast. So that's your
Isn't
first. Go ahead.
Booger Man is in there?
Boogerman is in there.
Yeah,
Of course, the first character anyone might think of is the Snowman. There's also at least one racist character, but I can't remember
I'm sure.
what the character is. Anyway, it's Clay Fighter 63 and a third. The second recommendation is if what you took away from this game was that you love folklore, but you're ready for something that embraces that, but is in a different genre. You're all done with fighting games for now. I'll recommend The Wolf Among Us. Have you played this Telltale Choose Your Own Adventure?
I have not.
It's made by the same people who did like the Walking Dead series, and it's sort of known as just one of those great narrative adventure games. But that's out there for you as well. What was the specific? I had a specific tie into this that I didn't write down. The Wolf Among Us. It's based on I wanted to tie it into the folklore specifically. So let's go The Wolf Among Us. It's based on Bill Willingham's Fables comic book series, which
Oh,
which is tying into, just like I guess the werewolf folklore. But were you going to say something?
no, I know Fables. I didn't realize Wolf Among Us was an adaptation of that. I don't know how that got past me. Weird.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
how much it ties in, whether it was just like a jumping off point or heavily adapted from, but The Wolf Among Us is your second one. Now, finally, is if I already detailed that the Japanese and the original name for this game is called Vampire. If to you, you're a purist and you're like, this game is not Darkstalkers, it's Vampire, and that's all I want, I'll recommend a little game for the PlayStation 2, starring a vampire known as Vincent Valentine. That, of course, is Dirge of Cerberus, Drew. You
I've never
familiar with
played
this
it.
game at all?
I am in theory. I never played a Final Fantasy VII other than the original PlayStation release of it. So all
Yes,
the additional stuff I don't know anything about. Is Georgia Cerberus not absorbed into like the Final Fantasy VII remake trilogy? Is it?
it is not.
Oh.
Yes, Vincent, of course, shows up at least in the second game, but this is his own original game, as you're familiar, where it's like a third person action shooter game that it's very mixed, both critically and by fans. Some people love it, some people love it for how strange it is, and some people just despise it. But yeah, if vampires all you really care about, that's your game. I'll go ahead and recap this by just saying the three titles. We have Clay Fighter 63 and a third, The Wolf Among Us, and Dirge of Cerberus. That'll do it for the Rex, and that'll bring us to the end of the show. So once again, Drew, before we plug and get out of here, thank you so much for coming on and also having this idea for this episode. This is a blast having you back.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me talk about Boob Lady.
You're very welcome. Boob Lady 1, 2, and 3.
Hmm.
On your way out, I know we talked about a couple of your projects at the early part of the show, but what do you want to plug? Where should people find you on the internet?
I'm on Blue Sky at Drew Mackie, mostly talking about dogs, squirrels, and video games. My video game website, if you like old video games, is thrillingtalesofoldvideogames.com. It'll be in the show notes, as Connor has already said. And then I do a podcast that's about old sitcoms, and it's called Gayest Episode Ever. We focus on LGBTQ focused episodes of old sitcoms. And as of the recording of this episode, the episode that just went live on our main feed is Small Wonder, which is a show about a family that has a robot daughter
Oh, I've never heard of that. When is this from?
from like the late 80s. It was syndicated only. It was on Fox networks back when Fox was new and didn't have enough programming.
Okay.
And it's not a great show, but it is a great show in that if you want to watch a show about people who don't realize that the little girl who talks and acts like a robot is a robot.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. 4 seasons.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Just everything had just count so many seasons back then. Even a show as, I guess, obscure as this.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Well, that's great. I'll put a link to all of that in the show notes so that people can find it easily, as well as all of these plugs that I have right here. The cover art for Call Me By Your Game is done by Glenn J. You can find him and his other great work at the link to his Instagram below. This show is produced, edited, and the original music that you hear throughout is done by Jeremy Schmidt. You can thank him by checking out his podcast, Video Games, a Comedy Show, wherever you get your podcasts. It's also on the same Patreon feed for all the patrons that are out there listening right now. You can follow Call Me By Your Game on Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube. And you got to check out the YouTube version of this podcast because it's all the audio plus video and a few graphics that I make. You can follow me on social media, Blue Sky specifically at Connor McCabe. And then lastly is that if you're still here and you're looking for a way to support the show outside of just listening and sharing the podcast with a friend, check us out on Patreon. We're over at patreon.com/super NPC Radio, where we have a bunch of bonus video game podcasts at different tiers if you want to support us, including our Games Club series, where currently we are going through Silk Song. So if you want to listen to us struggle through the difficulties and also beauty of that game, that's available at our $5 DJ Toad tier. New episodes come out every Friday. And if you're like, hey, I want to support, but I can't really do that right now, check out the Games Club free feed wherever you get your podcasts at Super NPC Games Club, where currently we are nearing the end of our BioShock Games Club, which we did about a year ago or so. But again, you can find all this stuff in the show notes. That'll do it for another episode of Call Me By Your Game. We will see you on the next one.